I'm sorry, Mr. Krabs. Could you run that by me again?
Sure. I said I'm worried that...
That's what I thought you said. Now let me offer this as a rebuttal.
Hello, my friends. How are you doing? I hope you're having a great day thus far, or a great night. Whatever time of the day or night it is whenever you're watching this video, I hope you are doing great. And for today's video topic, I wanted to talk about something that's very near and dear to my heart. A show that in the intro I just played, you can definitely see, is SpongeBob SquarePants. So, we got some stuff to unpack. Now, I want to preface this, I haven't seen pretty much any of the recent SpongeBob movies or recent TV series. I haven't really watched the show regularly since I was like a preteen. But I did watch a little bit to kind of catch up at certain times. And I'll watch some of the older seasons too, just because they're so timeless and hilarious to me. Even as a grown man, like I just think the original, the OG SpongeBob, the seasons 1 through 3 and 4 and 5 a little bit, that's peak SpongeBob. Alright, that is peak SpongeBob. That is when SpongeBob was doing its best. I even went so far as season 6 because it has some good episodes, like the surfing episode with the surfer that gets sent to the island. Pause. That sounds bad. My bad. They get sent to an island with the surfer because they crash their surfboard and for some reason gets it dozens of miles away because, you know, cartoon logic. And then House Fancy, great episode. But today's video I wanted to talk about a very specific topic that I think a lot of people share my sentiment with. So the last SpongeBob movie I watched, I'll put it on the screen here, was Sponge Out of Water. Now, Sponge Out of Water, if you didn't know, basically is this film where the Krabby Patty formula goes missing. I know, big shock. It's been a while since I've seen it, so I might be a little hazy on the details, but SpongeBob basically has to go find it back. He gets the whole crew together. He meets like an interstellar galactic being that's like a dolphin that can travel through space and time. And, you know, basically to sum it all up, they go on land and they get like superpowers, and it's pretty cool. Like SpongeBob gets the power to control bubbles, Mr. Krabs becomes a cyborg robot, Patrick can like telekinetically control ice cream, Squidward can like use musical, like kind of like Music Meister a little bit, like musical notes and things to fight, and Plankton becomes like super big and strong. So we all know this, right? Like if you're a SpongeBob fan, in the first SpongeBob movie, hands down the best SpongeBob movie. There is not a SpongeBob movie since that has even matched how good the first one was. In that movie, SpongeBob, you know, goes again, Krabby Patty formula, all that stuff. Plankton unleashes Plan Z, which is his final plan to gain control of the Krabby Patty formula, Mr. Krabs, Bikini Bottom, all of it. And SpongeBob thwarts him, of course, you know. Spoiler alert, but the movie came out in 2004, so if you haven't seen it, it's kind of on you. Just kidding. But, you know, check it out. It's pretty good. So the point I wanted, not the point, but the thing I wanted to discuss today about SpongeBob is I feel like a lot of kids, and Gen Z kids like me that grew up with SpongeBob in the early 2000s, who grew up watching it, watched it even, and if you appreciated it as much as like someone like me did, where you watched it even as you got older, because a lot of people watch SpongeBob and they didn't really want to watch it anymore because they're an adult, and you know, there's nothing wrong with that. It's just, you know, some people it held a special place in their heart where they wanted just to keep either rewatching the older seasons or see what the newer ones did. So in today's video I wanted to discuss some of the new things that I've noticed about SpongeBob. And to be fair, like to preface, maybe I'll make a future video where I actually like systematically go through and review like the newer SpongeBob movie, like Sponge on the Run, or the newer seasons. But I'm gonna be honest, they're painful to sit through. Like even from what I've seen, like I have Instagram, so I'm like, you know, doom scrolling old clips of nostalgia and shows I used to watch, like iCarly and Drake and Josh and all the old shows I used to watch. I'm like, oh, very funny, you know, cool show. I remember the good old days. But every time I see a modern SpongeBob clip, you know, no disrespect to the voice actors or to the people who still work hard on that series, but my God, it is terrible. It's so bad. Like, they turned it into like SpongeBob always had a degree of slapstick humor for sure, but they just turned it into steaming pile of shit. Like, it sucks. It's like so bad. Like, I think the furthest I watched up to was season 9, and now they're on like the 13th or 14th. I think they're on the 13th season. But, and that was a while ago. That was like probably like 5-6 years ago. Probably even more. And I was just watching it, and this modern day SpongeBob, I just cannot get behind, you know, because the characters feel so different. They feel like goofy and not really funny anymore. They're just kind of like immature. And I know people are going to tell me like, you know, well, I'm going to spoil my real name there. I might have to edit that out. But a lot of people, you know, try and tell me like, hey, you know, like, it's a kids show, so it's not supposed to be like super mature characters and characters that. But let's be fair, there was a degree of seriousness in the early SpongeBob seasons, you know, like in season 1 through 3 especially. And it's not that they needed to be serious, but the story, you could follow the story, and it was fun, and people enjoyed it, and I loved it. That's like my favorite. If I had to have like an S tier for cartoons, and I might do a video where I do like S tier for cartoons, ones that I really loved, SpongeBob takes the cake. It's right beside that and Regular Show for my generation. A lot of kids that grew up in my time love Regular Show. And, you know, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Gumball, Justice League animated series, you know, those are all like my S tier. But SpongeBob seasons 1 through 3, and I'd even go so far as to say seasons 1 through 5, and a little bit of 6 were my peak SpongeBob enjoyment. And to be fair, if you enjoy the newer SpongeBob seasons, like, it's okay. You know, everyone has their preferences. Everyone has things that they like. You know, I have this one friend who really enjoys the newer episodes of SpongeBob. I mean, I personally am not a huge fan, but I can understand why someone might be. But the thing is, it just feels like goofy and not fun anymore. You know, like, I remember back, I think this was season 9, they had an episode called Whirly Brains. And the concept of this episode is they would just take their brain, attach a little, like, machine part to it, and then fly it in the sky. And that was the whole episode. And I was watching this, like, as I think I must have been, like, 15 at the time. And I was just like, what the fuck is happening to SpongeBob, man? What is this? And then there was another episode. This one was a little bit better. It was called Food Con. I think it was called Food Con. And, you know, it's basically what it sounds like, where, you know, Mr. Krabs and the crew, Squidward, you know, SpongeBob, Patrick, they all go to this food convention where, you know, like a convention, a con, like Comic-Con, WonderCon, you know, they go to a convention all about food, and it wasn't so much, when it comes to SpongeBob, it's not so much the fact that it's new that I don't like it. It has nothing to do with that. It just feels like the quality dipped down. You know, the quality of SpongeBob became worse progressively over time. It's not a new thing. It's been around for quite some time, but I refuse to watch any of the newer SpongeBob seasons or episodes because it's not enjoyable for me. You know, I saw some of the newer stuff. I saw bits and pieces of the newer movies, and it just doesn't feel like the feeling that I had when I watched SpongeBob as a kid. Now, to be fair, that's nostalgia. You can't really recreate that. But even when I've rewatched seasons 1 through 3, 4, and 5, I still have that same feeling of like, yeah, this is a fun show that everyone can enjoy. And I think, and you know, I've been talking a lot of shit on the newer seasons of SpongeBob, so I want to make it fair and give some credit where credit's due. The voice actors are still great, you know. They do try really hard to make a show for an audience, but I just feel like, to be fair, the audience that originally enjoyed it, we grew up. You know, we grew up and we weren't watching SpongeBob anymore. So they had to target a new audience, which is like, you know, the younger Gen Z or Gen Alpha kids. And, you know, it's like, it just isn't the same. But, however, I did like that Mark Hamill was playing the Flying Dutchman in the newest I think it's the newest SpongeBob movie. Now, I don't like his voice acting nearly as much as the original voice actor, but, and to be fair, Mark Hamill's an excellent voice actor. He is one of my favorite, not just voice actors, but actors and celebrities in general, because he's just a really cool person. He's voiced Joker, he's been Luke Skywalker, he voiced Skips in Regular Show. Like, he's a big part of my childhood, and always will be. So I don't mind that. I think it's actually cool that he voiced, you know, the Flying Dutchman in the newest SpongeBob movie. However, I think there's a commonality that we can all put together, and that is the passing of Stephen Hillenburg, right? Now, if memory serves right, he wasn't. I don't want to say it was like a George Lucas situation where he like didn't have any more creative control over SpongeBob, or like how George Lucas lost creative control over Star Wars when he signed it to Disney, which I'll talk about in a different video. But you know, SpongeBob. To be fair, he stopped working on SpongeBob pretty early, and let's look this up because I think it was season 3, if I remember correctly. I'll put it on the screen here. Let me just look up when did Stephen Hillenburg stop working on SpongeBob? Let's see here. I'm pretty sure it's pretty early on, but if memory serves, he still had like a great deal of control of what happened in the show. It wasn't like he couldn't be allowed to, do anything in the actual show itself. Hold on. Oh well, my connection's bad, so I can't look it up. But the point is, I love SpongeBob. I'll always love SpongeBob. That show has like basically shaped my childhood and early teen years. I know a lot of people stop watching after they're 11, and that's perfectly fine. You know, I found enjoyment in it. You know, when I'd have a tough day at school and I just wanted to relax, come home, put on some SpongeBob. You know, but I think the thing is, when Stephen Hillenburg passed away, and we see this a lot, this isn't like anything new. SpongeBob definitely started going downhill. All right, let's see here. Yeah, he stopped working in 2004, so that's like right when the movie came up. But he did have a lot of creative control, right? So I'm not trying to say that, like, you know, with Stephen Hillenburg, I think he still had a lot of creative control even up to the later seasons. But there is definitely a decline in the quality of SpongeBob after he passed away in 2018. So, you know, and this isn't new. This is something that happens in shows and in movies and in franchises, especially franchises that make as much money or as successful and as renowned as a series like SpongeBob SquarePants. And again, like, I have nothing against the voice actors or the people who still work on the show. I just think the quality has kind of dropped off, and it's just not as good as it used to be. And, you know, like I said, I've tried watching some of the later seasons, and I've tried to kind of get back into it, like, give it a chance, you know, but I just, you know, it just wasn't the same, and I just didn't like it. I just thought it was kind of, like, the humor was very much different. I don't really know how to describe it. I don't want to say, like, it was more mature, because it's SpongeBob, it's supposed to be that way, but it just isn't part of what I think Hillenburg created to give it that magic that originally SpongeBob was. But again, you know, if you like the newer seasons, that's fine. I just kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit because I have rewatched seasons 1 through 5 and 6 probably like 50 times. Up until, you know, I even do sometimes still, you know, I'll be eating lunch or I'll be eating dinner and I'll just like pull up some SpongeBob on my phone and I'll just watch some of the older seasons, usually the really older seasons, because that was the golden era of SpongeBob for me, and I think a lot of people can agree with me on that it was really good back then, and I think it has the potential to continue to be good, but I think the problem is, like, you know, they're doing the same shit with George Lucas that I feel like they are doing with Stephen Hillenburg. The only difference is Stephen Hillenburg has been passed away for a long time, so, you know, he doesn't have any more creative control over the show. He doesn't really have a say anymore, which is, you know, kind of sad, but, you know, he's resting in peace. But anyway, just kind of wanted to talk about that a little bit. You know, let me know in the comments if you think the newer seasons are any good. Maybe I'll give them a watch. I watched a little bit and I could not. I was just not enjoying it. Like, the voice acting was fine. That part wasn't the problem. It was just the direction the show was going. it just felt kind of stupid. So anyway, that was just kind of something I want to talk about. Anyway, my friends, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Next video, I'll try and come in and talk kind of like my first long-form content video of now, when I was talking about how I thought maybe the Green Lantern HBO Max show would be turning out. I'll try and have a topic like that. But, you know, I like to talk about things on this channel. You know, I just like to share my opinions and things in pop culture that I enjoy, movies I like. I'll talk about all kinds of stuff, and there's a lot more to come. So anyway, my friends, let me know what you think about SpongeBob these days. If you what you think the golden era was, whether it was season. I've heard most people say season 1 through 3. I think it could be pushed out to 5. I think, you know, like Jim the original fry cook. Now, that was a good episode. That was a funny episode where where Mr. Krabs like, you can't find employees like that anymore, and SpongeBob's all like, yeah, not unless you look right in front of you. And Mr. Krabs like, you're right, boy. And Squidward's walking by, and he's like, I appreciate you, Squidward. And Squidward's all like, now I feel complete. I'll put the clip in the in the video here.
You laugh. You just don't find employees like that anymore.
Yeah, not unless you look right in front of you!
You're right, boy. I appreciate you, Squidward.
Now I feel complete.
Yeah, I really love SpongeBob, and I love the older episodes because, you know, it's nostalgia. That's the nice thing about nostalgia. You know, you can go back in time to a time when things were, you know, even if you were struggling or times are hard, you know, you had that fun little bit to get you through it. And, you know, that's the nice thing about stuff like that. So anyway, my friends, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care. See you later. Bye.